The serpent's grasp in the farthest reaches of the Drakkar Sea, where the water is as black as ink and the sky seldom reveals the stars, there lies a forgotten archipelago known as Serpenthra. For centuries, it had been abandoned, an eerie and desolate place spoken of only in whispers. Its coasts were jagged and treacherous, with spires of rock that jutted out like the fangs of a serpent, giving the island its name. The few sailors who ventured near it told stories of ghostly ships and the sound of mournful wails carried by the wind. It was a place where few dared to tread. But there was more to Serpenthra than legends of the supernatural. Deep within its cliffs lay a power older than the world itself, a power sealed away by those who once ruled the land in an age now long forgotten. This power was the serpent's grasp, a force said to be capable of controlling the very essence of life. If released, it would corrupt the land, the seas, and the hearts of men. Yet over time, the knowledge of this ancient force faded, and with it, the last of the guardians who once stood watch. The city of Darnathis stood on the mainland, facing the treacherous sea that led to Serpenthra. It was a city of towering stone walls, bustling markets, and proud people. It had grown rich through trade and strong through the might of its army. But like all prosperous cities, Darnathis had its share of secrets, and none were more dangerous than those kept within the vaults of its ruling family, the House of Rhaegar. At the heart of House Rhaegar's estate, beneath layers of stone and iron, was a room where no sunlight reached. In it was kept an artifact of immense value, the key of Serpenthra. It was a jagged piece of ancient metal, tarnished and cold to the touch, but engraved with symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. Only the heads of House Rhaegar knew of its true significance, for it was said that whoever held the key could unlock the serpent's grasp and wield its terrible power. Alindra Rhaegar, the youngest daughter of Lord Aeron Rhaegar, was never supposed to know about the key. As a child, she had always been curious, sneaking into forbidden parts of her family's estate and reading the old scrolls and tomes that were kept hidden from her. But on the night of her 15th birthday, her curiosity led her too far. She had overheard a conversation between her father and the High Counselor, an old man with a whispery voice and eyes that gleamed with malice. They spoke of Serpenthra, of the key, and of an ancient ritual that could be used to summon the power of the serpent's grasp. The counselor had been urging Lord Aeron to take action, to unlock the secrets of the island and use its bay to make Darnathis the greatest city in the world. Aeron had been hesitant. "It's too dangerous," he had said, his voice heavy with worry. "The power of the grasp is beyond control. Those who seek it are consumed by it. You know what happened the last time it was used. But think of what we could achieve." The counselor had insisted. The serpent's grasp is the key to immortality, to limitless strength. You could rule not just Darnathis, but all the lands beyond. Alindra had hidden in the shadows, listening, her heart pounding in her chest. She had always known that her family held great secrets, but this was something far darker than she had imagined. Unable to resist, she decided to learn more. Late that night, while the estate was quiet and the guards had grown lax, Alindra made her way to the vault. She knew where the key was kept, though she had never been there herself. Her hands trembled as she pried open the heavy door, stepping into the cold, dark chamber beyond. And there it was, the key of Serpenthra, lying on a pedestal of stone. As her fingers brushed the key's cold surface, she felt a surge of power ripple through her. For a moment, the world around her seemed to twist, and she saw visions of a great serpent rising from the sea, its body coiling around the islands of Serpenthra like a constricting noose. The vision was so vivid, so terrifying, that she stumbled back, dropping the key. "What are you doing?" The voice of her father startled her, and Alindra turned to see Lord Aaron standing in the doorway, his expression a mixture of anger and fear. "You shouldn't be here, Alindra," he said, stepping forward. "This is no place for you." "I know about the key," she said, her voice trembling. "I know what it can do." Aaron's face darkened. "You don't understand. No one truly understands. The power of the serpent's grasp isn't something that can be wielded by mortal hands. It is a curse as much as it is a gift. The last time someone tried to control it, it nearly destroyed our world." "But the counselor said..." "The counselor is a fool," Aaron snapped. "He sees only the glory that power can bring us, not the devastation that comes with it." The following weeks were filled with tension. Alindra tried to forget what she had learned, but the pull of the key weighed heavily on her mind. She could feel it calling to her, a whisper at the edge of her thoughts. And then, one fateful night, everything changed. The High Counselor and a group of his loyalists staged a coup, seizing control of Dornathis and imprisoning Lord Aaron. They had decided to act on their own, without the Lord's consent, and were preparing an expedition to Serpenthra to claim the serpent's grasp. Alindra, along with a few trusted allies, managed to escape the city before she could be captured. Now, with her father imprisoned and the counselor intent on using the grasp for his own twisted purposes, Alindra had no choice but to act. She knew that the key was the only way to stop them, but using it meant going to Serpenthra, a place no one returned from. The journey to Serpenthra was treacherous. Alindra, along with a small band of loyal followers, sailed across the Drakkar Sea in a ship barely large enough to survive the stormy waters. The sea was as unforgiving as the stories had said, with waves that towered above them and winds that howled like the cries of the damned. After days of travel, they finally caught sight of the island. Serpenthra loomed ahead, its jagged cliffs rising from the sea like the broken spine of a great beast. The air around it was thick with mist, and the sound of the waves crashing against the rocks echoed ominously. As they made landfall, Alindra felt the weight of the key grow heavier. She could feel the presence of the serpent's grasp, as though it were alive waiting for her. The island was desolate, with twisted trees and barren ground that seemed to stretch on forever. But in the distance, she could see the outline of an ancient temple, its stone walls cracked and weathered by time. The temple was even more imposing up close. It was carved into the side of a cliff, with serpentine statues flanking the entrance, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. As Alindra and her companions entered, the air grew colder, and a sense of dread settled over them. Inside, the temple was a labyrinth of dark corridors and winding staircases, all leading deeper into the heart of the island. The walls were covered in ancient runes, symbols of a forgotten language that pulsed with a faint light as they passed. The deeper they went, the stronger the pull of the key became, until it felt as though it were guiding Alindra's every step. At last, they reached the central chamber. It was a vast circular room with a high domed ceiling. In the center stood a pedestal, and upon it rested a massive coiled serpent made of black stone. Its eyes glowed with an eerie green light, and its mouth was open wide, revealing a hollow space within. Alindra knew what she had to do. She stepped forward, holding the key in her hand, and placed it into the serpent's mouth. The ground trembled. The serpent's eyes flared with a blinding light, and the chamber was filled with a deafening roar. The air around them seemed to warp and twist as the walls of the temple began to shake. And then, from the heart of the island, a great force surged outward, like a wave of darkness spreading across the land. Alindra fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the power of the grasp. She could feel it inside her, a force unlike anything she had ever known. It was both terrifying and intoxicating, a power that promised limitless strength, but at the cost of her very soul. Outside, the sea began to churn violently, and the sky darkened as though night had fallen. The crew left behind on the ship watched in horror as the island seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and from the depths of the sea, something ancient began to stir. The serpent of Serpenthra, a creature as old as the world itself, rose from the bayous